back, everybody, to the World of Railways virtual exhibition, part 3. For our next segment, I'm joined by Dave Mylett of Hattons, the buying and pre-owned handling manager. Hi, Dave. How's things?
Hi, Howard. Yeah, not bad. Thanks, yourself.
Yeah, not too bad. I guess we've all settled into the way of life now, where COVID lockdowns, etc. Is everything ticking over okay at Hattons?
Yeah, brilliant. It's as you say, we're basically 12 months into it now, so yeah, we've got used to working the way we have to. So yeah, no, it's going well.
So I guess it's all part of the way of life at the moment, but it still hasn't stopped you from producing things that we're now starting to see arrive, samples of which, Genesis coaches, for instance. How are things going on that side?
Really good. Yeah, we've had the first Studio R samples. I know you guys at BRM have had some to have a look at. And yeah, they're really impressive. We've had lots of good feedback from the photos we've been posting, and you guys and the other magazines who've seen them have all been very impressed. So we're really happy with the reaction so far. And we're going to get the next lot of samples through hopefully by the end of this month, starting next month with the rest of the colours. They were just held up by Chinese New Year, unfortunately. But yeah, then once they've all been approved and signed off, it'll go into production. So we're hoping to get the first coaches through with customers by Q3. We're trying for Q2, but unfortunately with the different COVID flare-ups and stuff in China, it is slightly a movable feast, unfortunately, but we're doing our best to get them with people as soon as possible. But obviously, as with any of our projects, we're not going to let something go that we're not happy with. So until we're 100% happy with them, then we'll release them. But we're very confident for Q3 this year, we'll be able to get them in people's hands.
That sounds brilliant, and obviously customers I'm assuming will be really looking forward to these. Do you feel though that because these are slightly more of a generic item, although they are very closely based on prototype practice, do you think this will pave the way for more similar generic models, for example, goods wagons, or do you think it will perhaps change people's mindset about the way they feel about model railways?
Very possibly, yeah. With the coaches, we did see it was sort of we with the pre-grouping liveries of different locomotives becoming more and more popular. We had our P classes and saw that the SECR livery on that was really popular. So we could see that there was the demand there for the pre-grouping era. So we did look at different coaches, but with that era having so much variance, we would if you tried to pin it down to one type, we wouldn't make a viable project. There has been some looking into other things. It's I do think we will see, not just from us but from other manufacturers, some more we rather than generic, we like the term prototypically literate. So it's something that could have happened. There's nothing made up on it. All the parts are parts from real coaches, right? Design elements. It's just they never got put together in quite that order. So I mean, there's nothing to stop goods wagons and things like that going out in the future, where the likes of the pre-grouping era, or maybe even a little bit earlier. In the pre-grouping era, you might be seeing things, because obviously we've had the Hornby announcement of the Lion locomotive to go with the Rocket and things like that, and then there's other manufacturers coming out with other things of that era. So I dare say we will see more of these things to fill a gap where there might not be a commercial case for a completely accurate model, but there's one that would sell well as another model that could fill that gap to help people create a sense of that time period where, obviously not everyone wants to model a certain place in a certain time exactly. They want a flavor of it. I'd say most modelers fit into that category. The old rule one, it's my railway, I'll run what I want sort of thing.
I was just going to say, lots of people are like that, and there's this sort of mindset when you go into the hobby, you're sort of told, well, no, you shouldn't be doing it like that. This is the way the real railway operates, and you've got to do it like this. And there's almost a sort of conditioning of this is the way you must model, rather than do what you want, really. So yeah, that sounds good. That sounds very positive. You've also got the teak variants of your LNER coaches arriving as well. Tell us, we got a rough idea yet, or is that going to be?
Again, unfortunately, Chinese New Year's held them up slightly, so we are waiting on a full date for them to be sent out. Unfortunately, shipping at the moment is an absolute nightmare. With I think that the main problem is there's loads of empty containers sitting around Europe and America empty, and there's loads of products sitting in China waiting to come out, and it's just marrying the two up. So there is issues with shipping at the moment. It's not just limited to model railways. Obviously, it's limited to it's across all commodities coming from the Far East. So yeah, so unfortunately, we haven't got a solid date for them, but they are. I'm 99.9% sure they are finished in the factory, and they are waiting to just leave on the next available container that we can get. So as soon as we do know, that all that information will be put out on the website. So yeah, just keep an eye on the website for those, but they are imminent. So and they look very, very nice.
Yeah, I have to say, from the images and the samples that we received, they look absolutely spot on. Now, moving away from your exclusive commissions, I have to ask, because given your position of looking after pretty much all of the second-hand side of things at Hattons, and we know that Hattons is such a large entity, you must have such a lot of stock coming through your doors. Is it true that model railway uptake in the hobby has increased and during the pandemic? And have you seen any sort of side effects in the buying and selling of models?
Yeah, I definitely say that there's been a massive uptake from people doing model railways, not just from our own sales, but from just watching the industry myself personally, from the likes of the interesting Facebook groups, things like that, where they've really exploded over the pandemic, of people starting to get involved. And there's a lot of people sitting at home thinking, well, what do I do now? And they've either got stuff sitting in a cupboard that they've brought out. I think there's a lot of people that have moved from being sort of aspirational modelers, where they want to build a layout. So in the last 5, 10, 15 years, they've been buying up stuff and going, I'll build a layout at some point, I'll do it at some point, to now they've gone, well, I've got the time, so I'll get into it. And the more they get into it, the more they go, oh, you know what, I've bought a load of wagons and coaches and locos and things, but I haven't got the stuff to go with it. So there's been a lot of things of all the accessories and what have you. So they've gone really well. But it's just nice to see people online as well, putting all the layouts and progress they've got and things like that. Yeah, you do see it reflected in sales, and that sales have increased. And the pre-owned section is one of the most popular sides of it now, because it's sort of a nice, interesting thing, isn't it? With pre-owned, even we don't know what's going to come up next. Today it could be a list of buses. Tomorrow it could be a list of mint Wren items from 20, 30, 40 years ago. The next day it could be anything. So for us it's exciting, and for the customers to go onto the pre-owned page on the website. And every day there's hundreds of items going up, so they can just go on there and there's also a newsletter sign up. So if you want to know exactly when stuff goes on, sign up to the newsletter on our website. For the pre-owned one, and that'll notify you as soon as the items go up. It's usually around between 5:15 and 5:45, something like that, Monday to Friday. So there's a shed load of stuff that goes up there, and there's always something of interest if you're interested in model railways. We buy in basically anything to do with model railways, and we do die-cast model railways, die-cast kits. That's plastic kits for tanks, planes, everything like that, as well as the model railway side. And it's not just UK-based items either. We do buy continental, Europe, America, Far East models. We will buy in, as long as it's got a modelling connection, we'll buy it. So
there you go. If you've got a kit that's languishing in a drawer and you fancy exchanging it for perhaps something that's new, give the guys at Hattons a ring, and I'm sure Dave will fix you out with whatever you fancy, as long as it's on the website and they've got it in stock.
Even if it's on the website, we will
outsource it.
As long as it's model railway, we'll buy it in. It's or plastic kits or whatever. So
with this increased demand, has that been reflected in prices of second-hand items going up a little bit, or are there any changes in the trends of different eras? For example, tin plate or third rail.
To be honest, I think the old tin plate and third rail stuff, I think the market's slightly decreasing for that, because there's not the same amount of people with the nostalgia that there was 15, 20 years ago. The people who were growing up through model railways now didn't start with that sort of stuff. One big growth is things like Lima. You've seen a lot more Lima items coming up, and I think there's a lot of people with collections of them where they've upgraded to new things, but there's a lot of people starting out where they're quite happy to have the older sort of Lima items where they're perfectly serviceable. And there's also a lot of variants. You got to remember the amount of liveries on like the 37s and 47s alone that Lima did. basically anything that was on the railway they
Yeah,
produced.
it was happening, wasn't it?
There's so much out there to be buying for them. So they go down really well. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's so much the prices that have increased as much as the breadth of products. There's some items where we've got it on the system, but we might not only ever seen one or two that will start getting more and more in, because people are going up into the lofts and going, oh, I forgot I had this. Right, okay, do I want it? No, okay, I'll trade it in. So we're seeing lots of stuff coming out. We've had quite a lot of limited editions. We had one collection came in end of last week, which ended up with, I think it was 5 large, you're talking large boxes. All of them were full of Class 37s from a few Limas. I think it was basically every Vitrain's 37 release, and then most of the Bachmann releases with some really obscure limited editions popped in there. Everything you can imagine for these limited editions, they're all up on the website now if they've not already sold. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you, in terms of collections, you must get calls from people, from all walks of life. What's the most outstanding collection that you've been offered?
Oh, we've had a few. We actually, it's not really the size of it. It was what it was. There was some that called us up and had a couple of what they described as O-gauge locos. They didn't really realize what it was. It was a couple of O-gauge locos and a bus. So the first one we took out was just an old Lima. I think it was a Lima 4F O-gauge, and it was like, all right, okay, that's pretty standard, Next thing that came out was the bus, and then we were like, oh, hang on, that's a bit special. And then we took the last thing out, and it was like, oh, wow. And then there was an extra look we didn't know about. It turns out it was one of the original radio-controlled Bertie the buses from the filming of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Great.
James, and, the name escapes me now. It was the dock tank with the crane on it.
Oh, okay.
And those are fully motorized, with the motorized eyes, with the servos and everything. They are filming models from Thomas the Tank Engine.
Wow, good grief.
So we've still got those downstairs in a cabinet. They're some of the ones that I'd.
That's the personal toy room, is it?
Well, it's what was the store at the it's at the moment. It's been a few different things with social distancing. We've had to use it for a few different things, but what will be the store again? So yeah, they're in there at the moment. I don't think we'll be selling them. They're obviously one of those that's not going to come up again very quickly.
Yeah,
but
it's one of the positions that you've got to be in on a regular basis is, how much is this item worth, and what value do you put into on that particular item? And I've got to ask, obviously a lot of people will buy items ready to run, they'll weather them, they'll customize them, they'll adapt them to suit their own needs, and they might decide they want to move on. How do you value something like that? Does it depend on the weathering, and are customers quite happy to buy pre-owned weathered items?
It's actually quite an interesting question, because we've started doing a lot more with the US recently. We've started advertising over there and buying in collections from the US, and it's not just US items we're buying. There's a lot of people over there that have British model railways as well, or people who've moved out there from the UK who are buying back. But talking to a few of the US customers, in the UK, if something's weathered, generally it'll go up in value. Even if it's just a light spraying of dirt on the side, someone will go, oh, brilliant, that looks a little bit more realistic, and have it in. Talking to American customers, their view is, if someone's weathered it, they've ruined it.
Oh, right.
And it's sort of a bit of a small group of American modelers who weather their models and like to have them looking realistic. But for the most part, the American modelers, and I think if you look at a lot of layouts, even the really detailed layouts, they'll have these amazingly detailed layouts, but all the rolling stock is generally fairly pristine. Even like some people might put graffiti transfers on, but they won't weather around it. They'll just put the graffiti on it. Yeah. It's one of those different things, the way that the different modeling sort of cultures have grown.
So do you see the US marketers seeing their models more as a collectible item, where it's got to remain mint boxed in good condition to be of any value, and whereas we perhaps see it more as an item that goes on the layout, and the layout is the whole, as the ensemble?
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, that was kind of my first thought, but looking at the layouts and everything, these guys, if they were taken as a collection, you wouldn't think they would run them. These guys, they're running the layouts, they've got all this stuff on the layout, and they're not necessarily looking at it as a value thing. I think it's just that they like the look of the clean, pristine locos. I'm not sure exactly what the mentality is. It's just one of them things that they like to have theirs spot on, mint, perfectly done. And over here, we don't mind putting a bit. It might be a thing if they've paid a lot of money for it and they think, oh, I don't want to ruin it or something like that. I don't know, but I first time I ever weathered the loco, I was a bit like, oh, this is trying a couple of wines first before I go to something. But I wouldn't run anything that wasn't weathered.
Yeah, sure. Well, what are the plans then for North America? Is it just to advertise at the moment and start a presence over there? Would you ever see potentially in the future, a sort of a North American branch of Hattons opening up?
Possibly. At the moment, we are looking at just taking the collections in and sort of tapping into that market of buying in collections and selling them again, because the postage between the US and the UK, the prices are that good that we can ship stuff out there and back very competitively, almost the same price as what people in America can ship across the state with. So it's worth it to get into that market. And obviously we already sell a lot of our own brand new items to America, so it makes sense that if we're shipping stuff out, that we can ship it back again and sell it. And over in the UK, there is a lot of American modelers of the US scene, so they can tap into this by buying the US stuff, the same with the continental stuff. But I think as well with coronavirus, that's helped bolster the post office's sort of resilience for this sort of thing, because more stuff's had to be moved around by the postal service rather than actual people moving it, things like that. So yeah, they've had some difficulties, but now I think they've got it mostly sorted. So it's allowed us to be able to be that a little bit more agile with the postal around.
So how would you say the size of the North American market in terms of the British modelers or US modelers for that fact compares to, say, the Australian market with expats that are out there modelling British outline?
I think if you compare the two markets as a percentage of who models the UK scene, I think Australia's got far higher percentage of modelers modeling the UK scene because of the expats, because the people who've moved over there or had family who've moved over there in generations past, that I think that's a much more UK centric railway base, whereas the USA has probably got a lot more modelers, and a lot more of them are doing home-based scenes rather than modeling the UK scene. But that's not to say that I know quite a few modelers over in the US who are modeling UK, purely because I think it's for the same reasons of someone in the UK modeling the US. It's a bit different. They might not have to get things exact for them to, it's one of those, the model that they're seeing over here in the UK. So you kind of notice when more things are wrong. Whereas, if you're modeling something from a different country, you might not mind so much about getting everything exactly right. So you can almost enjoy it that little bit more. You're not looking going, oh, I have to change that because it's not quite right. You can just go, right, I'm happy with that. Let's play with it.
Sure, right. So does that mean you might look towards doing something in the Australian market then as well?
To be honest, we already are. We do buy things from worldwide. We've had Australian collections, and it's everything. Again, it's everything from a small collection of locos to full collections of like hundreds of locos, wagons, coaches, and everything. We will, if it's a good collection, we'll find a way of getting it.
Well, I guess all of this comes down to, like you say, logistics and shipping, etc. I have to ask the question. Obviously, we're a couple of months down the line now, but has Brexit impacted on your shipping methods of shipping, and has there only been extra burden on the particular methods?
There's been, I wouldn't say there's been burdens on it or any extra delays particularly. There's the same as everyone else, sort of general shipping. For the first couple of weeks, it was a little bit slower because they were getting sort of used to all the different customs things. And there's a few different rules with different countries now, depending on whether you pay the duty at the point of purchase or the point of delivery. But on our website, we've got a guide for that, which will show which countries are in which category. So if you are outside the UK, you can see whether we pay all that and it just gets delivered to you, or whether you'll have to expect something at the other end. But to be honest, that's all sorted out now and going quite smoothly. So Yeah, it's that side of things, the shipping outside is going quite smoothly again. It's, to be honest, it's less than we thought it was going to be. We thought it might have been a little bit more, but we put in some contingency and sort of started doing a lot of research beforehand to try and negate as much as we could any problems that were going to occur. For buying stuff in, we haven't really seen a difference, to be honest. It's, yeah, again, a couple of days slower maybe from some of the more far-flung areas, but other than that, we are still buying the stuff in. It's not really changed much.
Which must be a relief. It must be a relief because you are a buying and selling business effectively. Yeah. So that's good. Well, I guess the last question that we must end on, unfortunately, is the roadmap. Now we've got a roadmap of the sort of a way out of this pandemic. How's that looking for Hattons? What's your plans going forwards?
Well, obviously, it's hopefully by the summer we could be sort of back to normal, as they say. Yeah, so we are looking at different things, but we have sort of started already changing a few little things. So the click and collect lockers are back open. They were closed for a couple of months, but during the big lockdown, mainly because people couldn't travel to them. So one of the big things for people with the lockers was it's 24 hours open. You get a code, you can come in, go into the lockers and get things, but the uptake on that was massively down because of people having travel restrictions. Now they've slightly eased. We've reopened them. So as I say, they are completely separate to the building. They're in their own little unit that's undercover. So they, if you turn up, they're sanitized during the day, so they are nice and COVID safe. And you can order stuff that should go in same day. Usually, if it's towards the end of the day, it might be the next day it goes in. But we'll text you when it goes in, and then you can come and pick stuff up. And that's been, again, massively taken up again so that people can come and have items straight away rather than having to wait for postage. And we have got plans for looking at the store and things like that and how we can open up again. We haven't got exact, obviously, there's no dates or anything yet, but there will be things. But there's a lot of changes that we've made where I don't think we'd be changing them back, to be honest, where it's more internal things, but just the ways that we've done things that it's made, at first we thought, we're going to have to change a lot that, might not do things that we wanted to, but we've managed to bring a few plans forward that we had that we've thought, we might do that in the future. We've had to bring them in because of obviously the different things that the government mandates, and then it's actually worked out that it's made things more efficient or easier. Or just some things where we've gone, why haven't we done that before? That's actually really good.
That's true. So, it's fast-tracked a lot of businesses, hasn't it? It's sped up the digital uptake and the way people think about business and the way you buy and sell products, I guess. Well, as you've heard Dave say, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you've got a collection or there's something you'd like to buy, give the guys a ring, see what they've got on their website and check them out. Dave, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure, as always. And thank
you very much, Howard. It's been good to be here and have another chat and be involved in the exhibition again. Thank you very much for having us.
Fantastic. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.